The very first words about us in the Bible are not me, but us. Why would God say that? Genesis 1:26 says, "Let us make mankind in our image," not me, us. Why? It's right there on the very first page of the Bible, the very first conversation about us, about humanity. But here is the mystery. God didn't say, "Let me make mankind." He said, "Let us," plural, not singular. And suddenly, the silence of creation trembles with questions. Who is us? Who was God speaking to? Was he talking to angels? Was he revealing the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, before anyone even had words for such a mystery? Or was there something else hidden behind those lines? This is not just a verse, it's a doorway that has puzzled prophets, scholars, skeptics, and dreamers for centuries. And maybe it's also a doorway for us to lean in, to wonder, to ask not only who God was speaking to, but why he chose to speak in that way at all. Because words matter, especially first words, especially when they carry the weight of creation. So picture it, the universe still unfinished, the stars not yet burning in the heavens. And then a voice timeless and immeasurable breaks the silence. Let us make mankind in our image. Who is in that conversation? And why were we created in our image, not just my image? That is where our story begins, with a question wrapped inside another question, waiting for us to unfold. If this mystery stirs something inside you, keep listening. The journey will only go deeper, and if it does, hit like so others can find it. When we hear the words, "Let us make mankind in our image," the first question always rises, who is us? Some say angels, the heavens already alive, celestial beings beside the throne. Maybe he was not alone in that eternal moment. But listen, Genesis 1:27 speaks clearly. So God created mankind in his own image. Male and female, he created them. Not in the image of angels, not in the likeness of heavenly hosts, but in the image of God himself. And so the mystery deepens. If humans bear his image, why say us? Why plural when the act was singular? Some whisper Trinity, Father, Son, Spirit, three, speaking as one. Others see royal speech, like a king declaring, "Let us build." Not because many are equal, but because one voice carries majesty. Two views, two lenses, both reaching for the same mystery. But maybe beyond angels or Trinity, the bigger question is this: what does our image mean for us today? And what comes next is not about who spoke, it's about what happened when humankind first opened its eyes. Let us make mankind in our image. The words were spoken, and then dust became flesh, breath became life. Genesis 2:7 tells us, "Then the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being." Can you picture that moment? The very first heartbeat, the first breath rising into lungs that had never known air. Eyes opening, blinking into the newborn light of creation. It wasn't just life, it was consciousness, awareness, the staggering gift of being made in the image of God. And with that gift came something heavier: choice. The power to love or to turn away, the power to create or to destroy. Think of it. All of humanity, our beauty and our brokenness, was already inside that first breath. And maybe this is why God said us, because making mankind wasn't just an act, it was a risk, a story too big for one voice alone. If this part touches you, subscribe. We share stories like this every week. The first steps of Adam and Eve weren't only the first steps of humanity. They were the first notes in a song still being sung, a song you and I are still part of. But freedom always carries a cost, and that's what came next. And tell me, if you had been there in that first sunrise, would you have felt wonder or fear? The breath of life had been given. The garden was alive. Man and woman walked in harmony with each other, with creation, with God Himself. But love without choice is not love. And so there was a tree, a command, a boundary drawn in freedom. You must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die. Genesis 2:17. It sounded simple, too simple. Yet within those words lay the weight of the whole story. And then hesitation, doubt, a hand reaching out. They ate. Innocence broke. Shame entered. And God, who once walked with them in the cool of the day, now called out with a voice that pierced the soul. Where are you? That echo has never left us. It ripples through history, through every generation. It lingers in our own quiet moments, when we hide, when we fear, when we run. And maybe He's still asking you the same question. From that day forward, the world was changed. The us who made mankind in perfect image now watched mankind stumble under a fractured one. The fall was not only about loss. Even in the ruins, something sacred remained. That is where we turn next. Where are you? That question was first spoken in a garden, but it never stopped echoing. It moved beyond Eden. It moved through history, and somehow it moves through us too. Because the fall is not only Adam and Eve's story, it is ours. Every time we turn away, every time we hide, every time we know the good, and still do the opposite. Yet even in brokenness, something remains. The reminder that we were made in God's image, not erased, not undone. Even in shame, even in exile, the image stayed. That is the paradox of being human. We are dust, yet divine breath, fragile, yet sacred, fallen, yet never abandoned. The legacy of Eden is not only loss, it is also longing, a longing for home, a longing for the voice that still calls, "Where are you?" A longing for the one who still seeks us, even when we hide. And maybe this is the lesson. Our failures do not have the final word. Even where shame begins, redemption is already planted. Look around. Every time you forgive a friend, every time you choose kindness over anger, every time you heal instead of harm, these are living reminders that we still carry the image of God. And that image cannot be broken, only forgotten, only hidden, until it is found again. The story of Eden is not just loss, it is a mirror. It invites us to remember both our weakness and our worth. If the fall wasn't the end, then what comes next? In the beginning, a voice said, "Let us make mankind in our image." That was the start of everything. Breath from dust, light in darkness, life given form. And then, another voice. Where are you? A question that has never stopped echoing. Through gardens and deserts, through kings and prophets, through every choice we make, it is still the same question today. Where are you today? Still hiding or ready to return? The story of Eden is not just ancient history, it is our story. It is your story, because every day we carry both the image of God and the shadow of our own choices. But remember this. The fall was not the end. It was the beginning of redemption, the first note of a song that is still being sung. And maybe this is the real mystery. Not only who God was speaking to then, but who He is speaking to now. And maybe that voice is speaking to you, like if this spoke to you. Comment, angels or Trinity. Subscribe for next week's story. Because this story is still being written, the next line might be yours. Next time we'll explore another verse that raises even more questions.